Okay, so this is a video of me taking the Super 5 OLED and making it for a client. This is the process, this is how I do it, and let's get to it. So this is just me unboxing it. I went into more detail later. I'm gonna break it up into another video, but this is essentially the customer's play that I'm putting in a brand new extreme right hill. Right here, I'm just taking off all the pills to make sure that, you know, everything is going to look right and work right. When I was taking out the box, there was a little bit of issue there on the right past my thumb. And now I'm trying to insert the panel inside the shell without breaking the touch panel because it's very fragile and great. So I'm struggling a little bit here trying to get this to go in. Man, very frustrating. I wish it would just work right. Alright, so now I gotta line it up without messing it up. And you also gotta make sure that you don't fold that flap to the bottom right where my thumb is, or it can get caught and then you'd have to lift up and mess up the adhesiveness. I do have a little bit of thermal paste. I'm known for thermal paste all over my hands whenever I work on something. Alright, I'm just making sure everything's looking good here because, like I said, that part right there was up. Alright, so let me get the switch that I'm going to tear down. This is one I pulled brand new out of the box. And I'm disassembling it, and I'm now adding the Hall effect sticks that I own, and I'm gonna put them in here. They have to go in a certain way. As you see, I'm fiddling, trying to figure it out. Also looking for the screws. You know, that's always important, having the screws. I'm really struggling with lining this up. I apologize about the hair. This is my first video and I am still learning. I definitely need to adjust the video to make it horizontal going forward, and I need to bring it forward more so my head doesn't get in the way. So there are two screws here to hold in the right Hall effect. It's reversed because I have it flipped. So everything's on the left is right and everything on the right is left. Now we're going to transition over to the left joystick. They only go in a certain way, so since I figured out the right side, the left side is the opposite. Now it's a lot smoother. Alright, go ahead and do this. Now next, I'm going to start. I've already unscrewed these screws. Good, and I've already mod chipped this switch. I'll go over that process in another video where I mod a switch. Okay, so this is the internals. I usually start from left to right, but if you're looking at this video, it looks like I'm going right to left. The screws don't matter to me. I know where they go. I've disassembled so many of them that I just know where every screw goes. So I'm just moving everything out of the way because I need these. Alright, back to the switch. So I'm gonna unplug all these connectors. That is joystick, unplugging. That is the FPC connector that goes from the motherboard to the daughter board. This controls like the backlight, the up, down, left, right, the plus button, and your backlight. So if you ever had issues in that area, more than likely either the cable or the daughter board or the connector itself. Here I'm just unscrewing the screws that connects the headphone jack, and now I'm taking off the metal shield that really just protects from interference. Doesn't do too much. This device doesn't generate more than like 7 to 8 watts max, unless you overclock. That's a whole nother video, a whole nother ball game. So here I'm just unscrewing the CPU heatsink head off, or break it, being gentle with it. There's that blue thermal paste that I always get over my hands, I swear. But this is good stuff. Kingpin makes it, and out of all the stuff I've tested, it's the best. Now I'm over here finishing with the screws, taking out the screws for the game card slot. There's 3 on the left. There is 4 holding in the audio jack, the 3.5. They have to come out as they're connected. To come out, you can lift it right out. That's the fan. I'm plugging the fan. It's a very tiny cable. If you're careful, you'll mess it up. There's the Wi-Fi, the positive and the negative. I've unplugged that so the board doesn't catch. Part and the 0.5 I've taken out. And this is the display connector I'm taking off. This can easily break, and that's the touch one as well. That way, I don't have a method, I just look. Do something long enough, you just kind of know where everything goes. And there's multiple screws holding this down. The magnesium frame that comes out now. I'm just double checking my work. I found 2 more screws that I didn't take off near the Type-C USB. I always go, you don't want to start tugging and break something. Everything. Going back over here to the other side. Thinking my life was going to be easier, but I didn't realize that there were still screws underneath that needed to unscrew. So probably should have started with taking out the left side before the right side. Just unfasten the LCD brightness. That's what I'm doing there, taking that out. And then the top one is the power and volume button. Move that to the side. I just got to remove the 2 screws holding in the left triggers, and then that can come out. There's that. Now you can see the buttons. Be able to lift this straight out now. Alright, you can leave the speakers in. Here we have the buttons plus the magnesium frame and the fan. There's a screw there, and then there's 3 more. 1 there. 1 here. And then 1 more Type-C, or where it would sit. And this is a Philips 000 bit I'm using. And now it just lifts right off. And now we're ready to transition. Insert the magnesium frame into the new shell where the OLED has been installed. This part you have to be very gentle because you can break things. So we want to take this ribbon cable, slide it between the battery and the actual black part of the magnesium frame. That way there's enough room that when you pull it up, it doesn't hug on the cable. Yeah, I'm experiencing issues because it became to me kind of messed up from the factory. You want to make sure all this is out. You don't clamp anything down or screw anything down without the cables being in place, because you have run the risk of just cables. Making sure everything is good. Now, probably gonna start putting buttons in. I did the screws. Now, normally on the batch one of these Super 5 OLEDs, you have to cut the magnesium frame. But on his revision, I didn't have to cut anything. I can fasten the screws completely, do them all flush and tight, and I can not modify the frame. So it's a lot simpler, a lot easier now. So let's go ahead and I'm gonna start putting a few buttons in before I put the actual motherboard back in. Since this customer wants a black OLED that's all black, I'm going to use brand new black buttons from Extreme Rate instead of the ones that come with it, which are these white ones. I'm just taking the rubber grommets off, that way I can use them on the switch. I had to get the black buttons, I realized I didn't have. Extreme Rate makes some really good quality buttons, I've noticed, but at the same time I've noticed hit or miss. The shells and the buttons don't always sit flush, so I have to sit there and cut some of the plastic off the buttons to make them sit flush and mush down and work correctly. Alright, so these are the buttons. As AYBX plus minus home screenshot, left, right, ZR, L triggers in it, the D-pad button, and then the home button right here. It takes two parts. I'm trying to line it up perfectly, because if I don't, it's not going to sit flush. So I am trying to make sure I'm going to put it in the shell correctly, because everything is reversed the way I'm. And now you see it snapped in flush. Looks good. Drop that in there. And I'm gonna put the rubber grommet over it to hold it into place. That goes a certain way. There's like a little nipple on it, and that nipple part goes on the left. But I thought, why not make it all black? So I reached and like, I'm gonna go get an all black home button instead of a clear and black one. I think it'll look more flush. So what I've done, I've grabbed an all black button for the home one instead of using that one, because it's gonna look better. No distraction, all black. Alright, that on. We're gonna start working on the buttons. They only go one way inside this. So if you're twisting it left and right and it doesn't go in, it doesn't go there. You have to find the slot where you're twisting it only goes in. Alright, so now I've got the capture button inserted at the D-pad. I'm putting the rubber grommet there for that. The process, a lot to do. I'm essentially building a switch from the ground up. and I had to cut this button here because I felt some of the plastic and I plus, so I got some pin ears to help out with that. Here's flush. Here's flush. Now I'm going to do the plus button. I found more wrong with that one as well, so I clipped that off. Going to work. Buttons. I have to forgive me, I'm always a bit going to work. Buttons. I have to forgive me, I'm always a bit place that with ADHD. Essentially, this kit is what's going to come with your mega kit from. Essentially, this kit is what's going to come with your mega kit from Retro Remake. It's going to come with this exact black extreme right shell. It's going to come with these exact buttons. Everything you see here is going to come with the HDMI untouched HDMI mega kit minus the I'm just back to cutting, making sure everything's flush. I want my customer to have a nice product. Now I'm going to put the motherboard in here. Trick is having everything lined up. Now I'm going to put the motherboard in here. The trick is having everything lined up just right, because you don't want to have to keep lifting up and down with your cables. And I wanted to sit flush, so now gently pull the touch connector, the display connector from underneath the motherboard that I just inserted. And the antenna cables, fan connector, they always tend to smash when dropping into the motherboard. And then this is the Hall effect I had to pop as well. So now what I'm doing is I'm getting the screws that were included with it. You don't necessarily have to use these for the extreme right, but but I am for this video. That's why you see the buttons up top, or the screws up top. I'm not actually use those. And they are all the same lengths in the same dimensions as the originals, so it won't strip. And that's another thing with these shells. The moment you feel tight and tension, you stop screwing, or you can strip the plastic. That goes the same for the OEM. There's just a certain amount of torque you got to use, and if you over torque, you risk breaking it. Your screw will infinitely spin and not fit correctly. Alright, so now I'm inserting the display connector. This is tough. I've done this before, and I've had the pins bend, and then the entire display connector shot and it's done. So I have to sit there and heat up my hot air station in order to do this, to fix this, if that were to happen. But it was expensive. So now I'm just getting all the connectors. This is the fan one, I'm reconnecting it. Now I'm doing the touch. This one is a little weird. Now I'm doing the touch. This one is a little weird. You kind of got to bend up and come in diagonally because there's like a lip at the front. If you don't put this in just right, you can mess everything up. If you don't put this in just right, you can mess everything up. Alright, so now I'm inserting the right daughter board. Alright, so now I'm inserting the right daughter board. There's a couple of screws I screw in first before I adjust the speaker, because if you don't do this, you'll have to retake these same exact screws out just to put it back in and screw it down. So I'm putting those screws in first, that way I can just pop it in and be good to go. There's a long one. First put it in, now I'm putting in the ribbon cable. There's a long one. Already screwed that in, now I'm putting in the ribbon cable. Hook the speaker underneath the ribbon cable, settle it, through, and throw it down this way. Everybody lift it up. I would normally test the display by just dropping the motherboard in without screws, and just hooking. I would normally test the display by just dropping the motherboard in without screws, and just hooking up the touch panel, the display connector, and the battery, plus the backlight, and make sure it works. I've done so many of these that they always work. One thing about Retro Remake, every panel's always worked. If they don't work 9 times out of 10, it's user error installing. This is a beginner installation, but at the same time, there's some elements to it that is probably intermediate, and if you're not careful, destroy. And now I'm probably going to set up the back shell. After I install the trigger rails that hold the left and right buttons up together. But when I lift it, it doesn't shift. Last thing you want is the spring popping out and going some springs I've lost everywhere. I bought magnets to scan the floor for whenever I drop screws. More screws over here. Is the bar trigger on? Clicks into place. Then I'm making sure it's working right. Do the ZL. This one gave me a little bit of trouble. I had to lift this one up, see what was going on. I would not clamp in. And I also didn't want to break it. I've done that too. Right there. Mushy. Looking right. No. Putting the card to just test it. Now I'm putting in the volume up, volume down, and power button. So here I need the ribbon cable that allows me to bridge the connection between the Retro Remake display and the power adapter. Essentially, so here I need the ribbon cable that allows me to bridge the connection between the retro remake display and the power adapter. Essentially, this allows me to convert the power from the main board to power the light as well. And you have to sit these flush. If they're up even a hair, you're gonna have battery. So I double check that they're sitting flush as well. And I decided I'm gonna hold the board down that way. If I do this, I flip it over. Nothing falls out. That's the worst thing. And I decided I'm gonna hold the board down that way. If I do decide to flip it over, nothing falls out. That's the worst thing that can happen, is you're testing your display or your switch and you flip it over, everything. My cats, Loki and Spooky, they just love to bother me when I work. Always want attention. Always. Alright, so now I'm connecting everything. Getting ready to do a test to make sure the panel actually works before I start filling everything. I tend not to hook up the power from the battery immediately because I've had issues where if everything isn't connected right, I've seen it the moment I've inserted something, it's fried like the ribbon cable because I'm moving it up and down and it's grounding or shorting it, and I don't want that to happen. Here I am putting the Wi-Fi antennas back together. I'm gonna have to tuck this in there nice and neat so it'll close properly. There's a certain way to do this so you'll have bulge. I tend to do like the retro remake video, put the power connector and then the ribbon that connects the FPC cable over that and mash it down and then hook in power over that and have one sitting above and one below. Okay, they're not above. And I'm going to add some Captain tape. This here helps with shorts and heat, and it'll keep everything in place. And I tend to put this specific one. And I tend to put this specific one. Just right. So I'm about to try this display. See if I see aging. Voila! Display is working. Look at that sexy screen by Zen. Down and continue with the process. Together. The video's a little focus, consideration. Next one. I'm now inserting the game card reader again, along with a 3.5 audio jack. Flipping that down. There is. Flip 7 screws. All the same size. Screws for the CPU. There's already enough paste pre-applied here and stuff. Don't need a lot. Screws for the CPU. There's already enough paste pre-applied here and stuff. Don't need a lot. And as I've already changed it, I didn't need it. I'm getting the other extreme race screws. I realized I was starting to use the ones that came with the shell. I was like, oh wait, I was using these. So now I gotta turn around and screw these screws and put the ones that I set up put in. I'm getting the other extreme race screws. I realized I was starting to use the ones that came with the shell. I was like, oh wait, I was using these. So now I gotta turn around and screw these screws and put the ones that I set up put in. Oh. So yeah, I realized that I was putting the wrong screws in, so I had to unscrew these screws, put in the ones that came with it. That way I do it all right. You have to use the original clips for these from the actual switch or the everything. And right here is the adhesive. That's the. Now we're freaking back shift. You have to use the original clips for these from the actual switch or the everything. And right here is the adhesive. That's the dust guard. And you have to put these down because we don't want unnecessary dust getting in there. Yes, some is going to get in there, but not a lot. Making sure everything's lining up right, everything's good. That big head is in the way. This one gave me some issues. It just did not come off. Keep messing with it and end up bending it a little bit, but I was able to get it out, straighten it up. Man, I'm really on the struggle bus. Here I'm adding the black game card reader and the SD cards. And there's two clips that come from the OEM shell. They're actually right in front of me. Here I'm adding the black game card reader and the SD cards. And there's two clips that come from the OEM shell, actually right in front of me. And there's two short screws that go here. If you use too long, you'll strip the holes. And this is for the buttons for the power. I'm taking out the SD card. And there's two short screws that go here. If you use too long, you'll strip the holes. And this is for the buttons for the power. Volume down, volume up. Grabbing the ones to match. Alright, so let's close this bad boy up. Button's freaking popped off. If you don't set it in just right, this can happen. So, thermal paste result. I went to do it and realized I was like, oh, I didn't put the heat shield on for the CPU so it can transfer the heat from the heatsink to the heat shield to the back of this. Ow! There's only 2 screws here. Alright, so let's close this bad boy up. Button's freaking popped off. If you don't set it in just right, this can happen. So, thermal paste result. I went to do it and realized I was like, oh, I didn't put the heat shield on for the CPU so it can transfer the heat from the heatsink to the heat shield to the back of this. Ow! There's only 2 screws here because I custom cut it just for this, so the shell will sit flush with the OLED and the mod chip. Alright, let's try this again. You have to do this a certain way at an angle diagonal in order for it to sit. You have to do this a certain way at an angle diagonal in order for it to sit flush. That's what I'm checking right now. Screws in this thing. And since I'm using the extreme rate screws, I can just use Phillips bits for everything. The entire switch, everything. It's so much more. There's 4 go on the back. There's 2 that go on the top and 2 that goes on the bottom. All different sizes for the top and bottom. One's the back of the switch. Alright, let me move all these screws out of the way. I was thinking, why don't I use this black screen protector for this? But I was just like, there's this crap, so let me grab the good ones. Actual clear tempered glass. Because it adds like this weird layer when I use the one from Extreme Rate, and these are just clear. So I was like, I'm gonna give the customer the good stuff. Alright, let me move all these screws out of the way. I was thinking, why don't I use this black screen protector for this? But I was just like, there's this crap, so let me grab the good ones. Actual clear tempered glass. Because it adds like this weird layer when I use the one from Extreme Rate, and these are just clear. So I was like, I'm gonna give the customer the good stuff. I'm getting annoyed because dust keeps flying everywhere. Every time I move a piece, another one comes, so I'm just constantly battling it. I'm getting annoyed because dust keeps flying everywhere. every time I move a piece, another one comes, so I'm just constantly battling it. This thing on my shirt's working. So what I'm gonna do here is I'm gonna calibrate the display because I've had issues where the touch doesn't work correctly. Other people have issues. And at the moment, the only way to calibrate this correctly is with a modded switch. I hear Remake is potentially developing a tool that can be used for people who don't have a modded switch. So I'm gonna boot this into official and make sure everything's working correctly. Alright, here I'm going to calibrate the Hall effect sticks. I don't want them not working right for the plan. Alright, now that the joystick's calibrated, I'm going to test inputs. That's how you know you have everything connected properly. Power this thing on, make sure it's working. So what I'm gonna do here is I'm gonna calibrate the display because I've had issues where the touch doesn't work correctly and other people have issues. And at the moment, the only way to calibrate this correctly is with a modded switch. I hear Retro Remake is potentially developing a tool that can be used for people who don't have a modded switch. So I'm going to boot this into official and make sure everything's working correctly. Alright, here I'm going to calibrate the Hall effect sticks. I don't want them not working right for the plant. Alright, here I'm going to calibrate the Hall effect sticks. I don't want them not working right for the plant. Now that the joystick's calibrated, I'm going to test inputs. That's how you know you have everything connected properly. I ended up having to take the whole thing apart again and actually check the daughterboard FPC because the volume up wasn't. Alright, now that the joystick's calibrated, I'm going to test inputs. This is how you know you have everything connected properly. I ended up having to take the whole thing apart again and actually check the daughterboard FPC because the volume up wasn't working. I did that off camera. I also noticed that it wasn't set